Hey, this is Kahja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming, and this is the As Told By podcast. All right. Welcome to this week's episode of the As Told By podcast. This is Kahja Elliott, host of the As Told By podcast, and we have come to the end of the road. This is episode number 6, the final episode of season 4. So you know that I had to go hard to close it out. So today we're talking to Berkeley native, former Silicon Valley software development program manager, and the creator of Black Vines, voted in 2021 as USA Today's #1 wine festival in the country, as well as the longest standing Black wine festival in the country. Black Vines is an annual celebration of culture, art, and wine education, bringing together Black artists, musicians, winemakers, vintners, and that's our guest for today. Fern Stroud is here on the As Told By podcast.
Hey. What's up? What's up?
Look, Fern, so laid back.
It's
I love it.
It's a pleasure to be here. This is an honor to be on this with Sis. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Fern, you're probably one of the most laid back people I know. You personify to me what is that Bay Area energy, right? Because you're just so chill, and everywhere I go, it seems, I was telling you this recently, everywhere I go, if I mention wine and if I mention living in the Bay Area, they're like, oh, you know Fern? I swear, it's happened to me in 3 different places, different states too.
Hey.
So you got to represent a reputation that precedes you.
That's a blessing.
In a good way.
This is super dope, and thank you for the beautiful introduction. That was lovely.
Yeah. What do you think when you hear that?
You know, I just I'm grateful. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful to be put in a position to be able to do something that I love to do, something that highlights Black folks in the highest level that we can be highlighted, and blessed to be able to continue. You know, going into 13 years.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a blessing.
It is. And we're blessed by it. For so many Black people, our introduction to alcohol is with spirits, right? Mixed drinks. When did you start to have first experiences with wine? So for me, I'm probably telling my age with this. My first experience was like Andre and OJ, the old school.
Oh, absolutely.
Mimosa, I call it. That was my first exposure. Boone's Farms, Pink Champagne, all the things.
Man, what you mean? You ain't had no Carlos Rossi Rhine, just the old school. What was it? Blush.
That was special occasions. Wine. With the little handle on the side.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that had them all. So what was your first exposure to wine?
Well, my first wine experiences were when I was a young child. And so my father was a tour bus driver who had tours throughout San Francisco. And so every once in a while they would have a wine country tour. Well, that was one of the offerings. They did Muir Woods, they did wine country, and then they did a city tour of San Francisco. So the city tour was like his main thing. But every once in a while he would do the wine country tour, just to change it up a bit. And so when I would go to work with him every now and again, sometimes I would be on that route. And so like my first experiences in wine were seeing these people go on this wine tour and just come back happier and happier every time we stopped. And so I was like, I can't wait till I'm old enough to go on a wine tour. And so that was kind of like the introduction. And then, of course, at parties, family gatherings, you see different wines there, but not really super into wine. I'm more of a cognac drinker. To this day, I drink cognac whiskeys. But I love wine and the adventure that wine can take you on. And so I think wine is often, and I can say this because it is what it is, comparison to like marijuana, where it brings people together from many different backgrounds. There's so many different varietals. It's very much an art as much as a science. And you can taste a wine that may be the same varietal and it's completely different. So it's all about how what's put into the wine. And so, yeah, my introduction into wine was at a young age. Then as I got older, I did experience wine country. And I got to say, being in tech, I had the means, but not necessarily the acumen or the knowledge. So going into wine tasting experiences, I wouldn't always feel welcomed. I'd come with my hair braided, come, 20-something. And at times I would feel like I would have to prove myself or prove my value by how much I spent instead of just being open and learning. But the people in those tasting rooms weren't back then, Now I'll be telling my age. Many, many moons ago, they weren't as receptive to folks that look like me.
Yeah.
And so we definitely wanted to change that up.
Yeah. And change it, you did. You came up with Black Vines. It's almost 15 years, right?
Almost. Yeah.
Almost 15 years since then. But you mentioned, and I did too, that you had a career in tech before this. So at what point did you start looking at wine as a career passion? And when did you start to realize that there was an opportunity to grow it from a passion into an actual business?
Wow, that's an excellent question. It was in the late, probably like 2018, 2019. So we were going into our 10th year, and, the event started to grow, as well as the other options started to open up in the industry. And so I started to see so many different avenues that we can go in. And the primary avenue, again, coming from tech, was how do I bridge this wine tech space? And so that space is still relatively new and can just be blown out tremendously. But there's so many different ancillary pieces of the wine industry that have yet to be tapped, innovated, and open. Like, the wine game is wide open. Yeah. And so after, coming to the realization and kind of getting over that fear, I was actually kind of forced into the entrepreneurial 100% side of things. Tech, right before COVID, in March of 2020, right before the pandemic shut things down, I was laid off. And I had told my boss, that year prior, I was going to give this another year, and then I was going to take the leap and try, at that 10th year anniversary, try to do this full time. And so I consider myself retired from tech.
I bet you do.
And I am 100% doing Black Vines, which is produced by Stroud Management Enterprise, which is a S Corp that was created in 2009 when I was managing music artists and heavy into the entertainment kind of consulting side of things. And so kind of just leverage the project and program management skills that I've gained over the years and put those same tools and tactics into managing a wine festival, as well as relationships with winemakers, wineries, artists, musicians, culinary artists, restaurateurs, just the whole ecosystem of folks that create these experiences. And so it's been a blessing. It's been a eye-opening experience, and the opportunities that have presented themselves since are just phenomenal.
Yeah, it came up earlier in this season, but you mentioned being laid off, and that kind of being the beginnings of you starting to do Black Vines full out. I mean, nobody wants to be laid off, but more and more I'm hearing as a common thread is that experience being the catalyst to people going and doing what has been in their heart to do. I ain't asking to be laid off, universe. I ain't. But I'm hearing that from more than one person. Like, I got laid off, and that was what needed to happen, because without it, I wouldn't have had the fire lit under me to go do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. So just imagine being laid off before a pandemic. So this is literally 2 weeks before the country as we know it, the world as we know it, shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting part is I was supposed to go to Beijing in October, the October prior.
Mm.
And so there was rumblings back then that, something was going on.
Yeah.
But still it caught fire here. And so laid off in the middle of a pandemic, it gave me the runway where, because I was out 2021. That was the plan.
Yeah.
And so this layoff gave me the runway to be able to try it out without much risk. Because I had the same amount of money coming in because I had been deemed an older person.
Get grandfathered out, huh?
So I had a longer, being in California, which California employee laws are amazing.
Ooh, it's a good time.
Yeah, they definitely make sure that they take care of those. I mean, and rightfully so. We have one of the richest talent pools in the world.
Absolutely.
And so you want to protect that talent. And I was protected.
Well protected.
I was protected. 17 years doing, work in like innovative spaces, software development, so I was coding back as a child. And so I got to see peers and like the revenge of the nerds really happen in real life. And so, yeah, that layoff was, I don't even know if I should say this, but it was one of the best things that happened professionally.
No, say it, because a lot of people need to hear that, right? Who are being impacted. Tech has had, and I don't know if they're even done with it, but tech has had their wave of layoffs this year. And for people, and I would imagine while you're in it sure don't feel like it's the best thing that ever happened to you, but you're looking back, right? Almost 15 years and saying that set it off.
Yeah.
So I love that you shared that.
It totally did. It totally did. And it was a necessary step, and it was almost confirmation to move on and not to be scared. I've always talked about leaping. I took a leap from a job that I was on for 14 years. I had graduated and went straight into a special program at a company, like an internal startup.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left that and started a whole new career, and you never know what's on the other side of that leap. Yeah. And so if you don't come home, I mean, of course, work can be hard at times, but if you don't feel that you're making an impact, it doesn't warm your heart. Like your hard days aren't warming your heart. It's just hard, and it hurts your heart. There's a lot of folks looking for talented people to do things that they love to do.
Yeah.
And I encourage everybody to, at minimum, take a leap before you're too old to take that leap. Because what is it? I forget the quote, but it said, regret weighs tons.
I guess. What do you have to lose? I mean, it would seem you lose more by not trying than by trying and potentially failing. And then what if you don't fail?
I don't even believe in failure. I don't believe in the notion of anything failing. I believe everything that happens is a lesson to improve my strategy. And so I do not believe in failure. I kind of threw that word out of my consciousness. I might use it, but consciously I don't. there is no definition in my life of what a failure is, because it's simply a lesson that I was supposed to learn. Sometimes it's hard.
But it's necessary.
Absolutely.
To propel you to the next place.
Absolutely.
So, as far as going to the next place, you landed in the wine industry, and familiarity with wine is new for a lot of Black people.
Yeah.
When you guys started, did you feel like it was easy to find Black vintners and winemakers, or is the abundance that we see now a newer phenomenon? And do you think that there's parity and opportunity and profitability for Black winemakers and vintners who are in the game now?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'll start with the easy part. There weren't as many wineries when we started. That's just bottom line. We started our journey in 2010, just researching. And I punked out that first year and even attempting to do anything.
What you mean?
Like, I started the process, and then I was like, I can't do this. Who am I to do this? Mm-hmm. So I stopped. And that next year, I hired a firm to come on and produce it for me on my behalf. Thank you, Ice Life and Life Productive, because they saw it before I could even see what it was. And so we started off with a beautiful partnership. Actually, we still are extremely well connected and partners. Consider ourselves partners with the Association of African American Vintners, AAAV. The founders were extremely gracious and helpful to us. And so our first year, we tapped into their network, and we had, I want to say, about 10 wineries represented.
Okay.
And just kind of worked with them ever since. And the industry has grown tenfold.
There's so many now.
So many. And so one of the questions that you asked was about the profitability and the opportunities. Mm-hmm. There are tons of opportunities in the wine space. And you don't necessarily just have to have a wine. You can work in the wine space from many different areas. You could be a winemaker. You could be in the vineyard itself. You could be in the marketing space. You could be any aspect of the industry you can be in. When it comes to owning your label, there's also different tiers. So you could just have a white label where someone else makes your wine and then you put your label on it and it's yours. Mm-hmm. All the way down to you picking the grapes, pressing the grapes, getting the bottles.
Do that thing from scratch.
Yeah, the end-to-end process. Mm-hmm. And so in that, the margins in the wine space depend. It depends on a lot. It depends on the quality of your fruit. It depends on how you treat your people, like your customers and your market. It depends on how you market yourself. It depends on all the things that you never think of are the things that can move that lever in your profitability. But at the end of it all, wine, the margins aren't super large. And so you have to love it and love the journey.
That's when you say love the journey. And I have a couple of friends who I follow on Instagram who are in these really immersive programs where they are seeing the wine industry from end to end. Like you said, shout out to Angela. She's moved from New York to wine country to do exactly that.
Hold on. Angela McCrae?
Yeah, that's the homie.
Man.
What's up, man?
What's going on, sis?
But you do have to love it because, she talks to me about, portions of it where you're outdoors and the conditions and the weather and all the things. It's physically taxing. It's not just, the luxury part of drinking wine in Napa and wine country and what we imagine that to be.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as folks would like to think.
Yeah.
If you're in it, like if you're in those weeds, it's bugs, it's mud, It's cold. You're out at 4 in the morning. It's hot. Mm-hmm. When those fires were happening, you're worried about your crops. Yeah. Like, there's so many different pieces of the industry that it's not super glamorous. It's not all pretty. And, you know, at the end of it, you damn right they over there drinking and acting like it's a party because they've literally went through the fire. Yeah. And to have that product at the end after you've put in all that work is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. They definitely put the work in for it. I've been watching some of what folks are reporting back from those kinds of programs, and it's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot.
So you know some folks in like the Roots Fund and Verizon Project and
I don't know the projects by name. AAAV, yeah, but there's another woman. I want to say her name is Elise. I can't remember her name off right. I met her at Black Women in Food Summit. Okay. Earlier this year, but she's been doing like updates on Instagram as she moves through different parts of the internship. So it's just been really amazing to see the back of the back of the back end. Yeah. 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 Of what it takes.
Yeah, it's work. It's work.
It is.
It is definitely work.
Well, outside of the work part, then you get to the fun part, which for me and a lot of people here in the Bay is Black Vines, which is the annual festival that happens in February. I mentioned earlier that in 2021, USA Today rated it as the #1 wine festival in the country. And it's continued to grow and evolve into a bigger production each year. So I was so blown away this past February when I went. This was the first one I went to, but I knew that the one previous had been at CO Creative Space. Mm-hmm. This year it was at Bridge Yard, which is, if you're here in the Bay Area, you know Bridge Yard right there off the side of the Bay Bridge is a huge space. Yes. It's massive, and it was packed. Yes. I was so impressed by what y'all were able to pull off. Y'all had... it was all kind of people in there. But one of the things that stood out in my mind is I'm like, Fern is just one person, and something to this capacity can't be pulled off without an amazing team. So what's been the most important thing that you've taken into consideration in organizing a group of people to be able to produce that level of an event?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Black Vines is the last Saturday in February. For the last 12 years, going on year 13. It'll be February 24th, 2024. And I think the most important piece of amassing a team to produce an event at that scale is everyone understands the mission. Everyone understands the vision. And it's beyond us. It's beyond even wine. This is an opportunity for us to provide a space for Black people to celebrate themselves, inspire future dreams, and ultimately creating an economic ecosystem where you can support people that look like you in ways that you might not have known you could support them. So we feature Black artists, Black culinary artists. We try to always have some kind of vendors available so we can promote Black businesses, Black musicians, and then our vintners as well, our wineries. I think this year we had 22 Black-owned wineries in the space. And shout out to the team from Precious, Adriana, Maisha.
Maisha in the house with us here today. She's not on the mic, but Maisha's here.
Yes. We have so many people. Kathy, David, my brother, JP, Blake. Who am I missing? Like Swan, Frida. Man, so many people, and then so many volunteers. So all the aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews.
Oh, you got
sisters.
The family involved.
Oh, absolutely. My nephews have been at Black Vines since they were, I think, 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I put them to work as soon as they were able to hold glasses. So yeah, it's a family event, and we encourage people to bring their children, because another thing that we're about is creating spaces and visuals of Black men smiling.
Wow, I love that.
Because how many opportunities do these young kids get if there's not a father in the house? how many opportunities do they get to see a black man smiling? Where are those images blasted? Where are those images being shown? And so we create that content and we blast it out as much as often as possible, because it's very important for us to see each other in these spaces of joy. And so the team understands our mission is like our secret sauce, or we did this in our last strategic session, is jazz, JAAS, kind of like, of course, I'm piggybacking off of my tech experience. So, you have SaaS, software as a service. Mm-hmm. You have IaaS, which is like infrastructure as a service.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
You have PaaS, which is like a platform as a service. Then you have jazz, joy as a service. And that is what we provide, a platform of joy for Black folks to continue to like get ignited. And carry that on. We want you to feel loved when you walk in and more loved when you exit the space.
Yeah. You did that. You did that. Thinking back, we felt joy. I remember going in there and I saw the news anchors that I watched, and they weren't there reporting. They were there drinking
to enjoy
and
themselves.
Engaging. They were there enjoying themselves. The food was amazing. It was organized. When you have that many people in that large of a space, it can be easy for things to kind of get out of whack from the experience perspective, but it was organized. There was a jazz band playing Too Short. Like, it was so... It was so Black and so Bay and so upscale. It just was the best thing.
Dope. Thank you.
It was the best thing. I truly enjoyed it. And, wine has been this thing in the Black community where people either don't want to admit to not knowing what the hell they like or want, right? Or feeling like what you like is somehow not the status quo. Like, so for people, we got onto Moscato and we liked it. And people are like, you drink a Moscato with steak? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what I feel like I want. But what do you say to people like me? I identify as these kind of people. But what do you say to people who show up to the big box wine retailers, right? And they're standing in the aisle. They have no clue what they need, no clue about what pairs well. Is there such a thing as good or bad wine? And what are some signs of either? Or is it just a matter of taste?
Oh, there's absolutely bad wine. There is absolutely bad wine out there. And it will be sold to you and you won't ever know it. And the wine might not even be bad when it's bottled, but the way that it's stored in spaces can make a good bottle bad. Or it could just be a crappy wine that people just want to make money off of.
Okay.
When you go into these big box stores, of course, I'm going to plug my folks and be like, the first question you ask is, do you have any Black-owned wines here? Mm-hmm. You might be amazed at how many people are like, I don't know where that aisle might be. But wine is a personal journey. And so the fact that you're putting wine in your glass is step one. And you develop your palate over time. And whatever pleases your palate is what is good for you. And so I say, definitely go to some of these. Of course, we have to plug some of our Black-owned spots. So on the East Coast, we have Vineyard, which is a wine shop in Brooklyn. And then we have Happy Cork, which are some other folks in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, who you can always go and get Black wines from. You have Coco Noir out here in Oakland that you can always get Black-owned wines from. You have 1010 Wine and Events in LA that you can always get Black-owned wines from. We're working on it with the liquor store up in Oregon very soon that you'll be able to get some Black-owned wines from. Gosh, what was the name of that spot? I'll have to look that one up. There's several in Atlanta. 3 Parks, Purple Corkscrew, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. Please don't beat me up. In Texas, there's spaces that you can get Black-owned wines. Soiree Coffee Bar, which is one of our partners. And so in addition to those big box stores, also kind of look out for some of those smaller boutique shops, bottle shops, that can not only provide you with a bottle of wine, they can provide you with some education around the wine. They have a little bit more, exposure and understanding of how the wines were made, who's behind the wine. They can ask you what you're pairing it with and really help you. And then our friends at Bay Grape, they have one in Oakland, one in Napa, Alkali Rye, so there's so many different smaller businesses that can also help you through your wine journey.
Yeah. Get more of a hands-on,
absolutely
consultative approach.
And in those spaces, you can also do tastings. And so, and how can I forget my people in SAC, the TAP, the Artisan Pour. So that's family.
Okay.
And they've been in this space for quite some time doing their thing. And now they have a whole boutique wine shop tasting space in SAC where you can get Black-owned wines as well. So, yeah.
Okay. So there is a bad wine.
There is bad wine. Yeah, absolutely. You can, there's bad wine.
And you said sometimes in the way you store it, you can turn a good wine bad.
Absolutely.
Somebody told me they came to my house and I had wine bottles standing, just standing upright. And it was like, you should lay them down. I couldn't remember the reason why, but I remember that they told me that because it can ruin the wine.
That cork gets, also the cork could get dried out. And then it's harder for you to pull that cork out. So when you lay it down, it allows some
moisture.
Moisture to that cork. But number one rule when going wine tasting, there's two things that you can remedy this with. But when you go wine tasting, you purchase wine, either have them ship the wine to you, or if you put it in your trunk, make sure that you have some kind of cooling system. So bring a cooler, put some ice down, and lay that wine down cooled. When wine gets hot, it's not happy in a bottle. And something that you can spend $100, $200 on could turn to nothing like what you tasted in the tasting room, simply because from the time that you went to that first tasting to the time you got home, it's been exposed to the sun for X amount of time in a hot car.
And it gets hot in Napa, so that can happen fairly quickly.
Yep. So that's either have the wine shipped to you or make sure that you have some cool packets and a cooler and just set your wine down.
Let it chill out. All right. Lay your bottles on the side. Keep them cool.
Yep. Keep them cool.
You mentioned the sense of community around Black Vines, and one of the places where that's been most evident, aside from just the annual event in February, is the partnerships that take place throughout the year, right? So like Wine Wednesdays, a lot of those things that you do. What's been the best part of bringing local brands and retailers and restaurants along for this journey?
The ecosystem that we build. That's literally why we do what we do. How do we create an ecosystem where Black dollars are continuing to be distributed around Black businesses? Or, just anybody's dollars, how do we support the businesses that will sustain us in the future? And so it's been beautiful to be able to ignite or infuse business into various small businesses in the area throughout the year. And the impact that it's had is anywhere from twofold to fivefold on the days that we do what we do compared to any other Wednesday. And so it's not just about the one-offs, it's community. Like, these folks this is our family. This is how we get down. And we're going to support our folks all year round however we can. And if we can be an example of that, then perhaps it will inspire others to do the same. And so the community is everything.
Yeah.
And the service to community is everything. So we always want our coattail pulled if we're not showing up with a certain level of excellence. If folks aren't feeling served. We want to know that because we want to improve that. I don't believe any customer is ever wrong. You always have some valuable feedback, and don't always tell us we great, because that ain't helping us get greater,
get better. Yeah,
you know. We want to always improve our game and always step up and show out for our people.
You're doing a pretty good job.
Right on. Thank you.
And you're about to now, you just recently took that good job internationally.
Oh,
Black Vines in Belize?
Yes.
How'd that come about?
Yes. Well, we recently partnered with one of our newer wineries, who actually is Belizean. He's born and raised in Belize, came out here to work construction, ended up in the wine space and caught the wine bug, and recently opened a wine bar back home in Belize. And so we partnered with Joseph and Lorraine Smith, JSL Wines, and just an amazing experience. And then our other sponsor, Alaska Airlines, has a route to Belize. And so we were able to partner these two and come together and really just make some magic happen. And so
so you're gonna get Black Vines experience on the flight and at the festival.
That's the goal.
Okay.
That's the goal. Yes. And so we do so many other things that kind of go under the radar. We help broker deals. We help curate wine lists. We help get our partners into restaurants, into spaces, onto airlines. You know, before we ever had a partnership directly with Alaska Airlines, we helped negotiate some stuff behind the scenes. And so, you know, we're trying to figure out how do we move more in this economic development space and truly serve our folks and everybody we can, from small businesses on. And so, yeah, this Belize thing, hey, Belize 2024.
Sure, don't make me get a flight.
Alaska Airlines got you covered.
Wow, that's huge. This is why I'm like, Fern is so laid back. Yeah, you know, I got a deal going to Alaska Airlines. You know. Just a little something we threw together. I'm here for it. I love that wine expertise is becoming so visible among people who folks might be surprised to know possess wine expertise. One of my favorites is Jermaine Stone.
The Wolf.
The
Good
Wolf,
brother.
Street Psalm on Taste Made. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, bringing together the worlds of hip hop and wine. I've really enjoyed learning so much about the global culture of wine with people like Carlton McCoy on Nomad on CNN.
Oh, Carlton.
Yeah. I met him. This was summer 2022. He was at Holder's house when Chef Sarah was doing a pop-up there, and I was trying so hard not to be like a fangirl, like, oh my God.
He's so cool.
But I was so impressed, right? Because I watched that program and learned so much.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Carlton is good peoples. Jermaine as well. And this wine space is, you know, it's not super huge. Once you're in the community, it's like, these is folks in the community, you know, that are really doing the work.
They doing it, and doing it in a way that's bringing everybody along for the journey. So, you know, outside of just the enjoyment of wine for Black people, you talked about there also being an incredible educational component to this too. So for people who want to learn more about the wine space, what are some good places for them to start?
Wow. Just online, going through the wine journey, checking out some of the Black Psalms that are out there doing educational series. IG is super good as far as like following wine folks. There's a lot of publications that are out there as well. But also visit your local wine shop, because those folks are literally waiting for you to walk through the door and be educated on the wines that they carry. And yeah, I would say like that is the starting journey. Just kind of fill it out and taste as much as you can. go to some of the discounted wines and just get you a bunch of the same kind of varietal and just try them out and see the nuances that you know. Start to smell the wine. Start to look at the wine. Start to really experience the wine and not just drink it, but have an experience with the wine. And you'll just learn so much on your own just by kind of opening up your mind and truly experiencing the wine from the moment it comes out the bottle until you consume it.
Yeah. Get out there and feel your way through it. Drink your way through it.
Drink your way through responsibly.
Yes, responsibly. What's one wine that you always have on hand?
Ooh, all of them.
She said them all.
I have a
collection.
Yeah, I have a lot of wine in the house. Yeah, and there's not one varietal that I would necessarily rival over another. Because depending on the day, depending on my mood, it might be another wine. One thing I failed to mention with regard to the wine education piece is Black Vines has started a wine education series as well.
Oh, tell us about that.
Well, it's right now a 3-part series. So going into we're knocking it out. It's with a Black Psalm, and it's kind of to give that introduction into the wine space. And so we really want to work with the folks who've been doing this work, and continue to educate folks. But back to the other question, I have all wines on deck. Mm-hmm. I love a big peppery, bold red, so like a nice Syrah, Petit Syrah. Those are my things, but I love everything, especially when it's Black owned.
Yeah. You bought a nice bottle up here today.
I did.
What'd you bring?
I brought one of my favorite bubbly sparkling rosés, which is McBride Sisters. That is out of Hawke's Bay, which is Andrea, don't beat me up. New Zealand. It's New Zealand. And so McBride Sisters have been super supportive, great partners. And that's one of my favorite bubbles. Yeah. So you got like my last bottle, and I was a little sad, but I was like, it's Kahja. So.
Thank you, Fern. I appreciate you. I know how that last bottle scenario can be. A fun story. You mentioned Coco Noir, but before that was a thing, and Alicia was just working in the space as a wine dealer, and I'd met her out at an event, and she sold me a bottle of rosé. It was South African, Seven Sisters rosé. I loved it. It was like my favorite wine ever. I think I bought like 3 bottles from her. And I drank the bottles, 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Got down to the last one. I'm like, oh, okay, we're running low. Let me hit her up for the re-up. She was like, oh, they discontinued it. I'm like, excuse me? Okay, well, they might discontinue it. It's not a new production, but certainly there's some, bottles already in production that's floating around. She's like, yeah, I don't have any. I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking no for an answer. I called South Africa because it's a whole winery there. So I called South Africa. I'm like, hey, somebody sold me this. I understand it's not in production anymore, but do you still have any inventory? They're like, yeah, no, we don't have it. I must have coveted that last bottle for like 6 or 8 months before I drank it because I knew
that was it.
That was it. So if anybody out here listening is holding on to their bottles, I'll pay to take that up off you.
Hey, Seven Sisters. Anybody got? Oh, wait. I might have somebody who might have some Seven Sisters, actually.
Hey, if they got one, I want it.
Yeah, we're going to check. And the other thing that I'm getting more and more in love with is opening some of those coveted bottles. Mm-hmm. The bottles that I've been holding on to for so many years. Open that bottle up. Like, treat yourself. Yeah. And enjoy it. Like, enjoy it. Relish the bottle and just take a journey and write about it. Miss Dottie and her husband were wine writers for the Wall Street Journal. And I have their book, and I think it's like it's their love story told by their wine tasting experience, and they John and Dottie, oh man, the sweetest people ever. But it's a story of how they chronologize their wine tasting journey as well, and how they develop their palates. And so once you pull out that last bottle, write about it. Even if you just write about it in your journal. What was the experience? How did you feel? What was going on that day? Because when you look back, now you have something to really to relish.
Remember it by.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If it's memorable, remember it. And tomorrow's not promised.
Nah.
Pop your bottles today.
Man. For real.
Yeah. Any upcoming partnerships, projects on the horizon? Ooh. Besides the annual event, which, we in countdown mode.
Yeah.
For that.
Oh, yeah. Black Vines 2024. We'll be at the Bridge Yard again.
Oh, we going back to the Bridge Yard?
Going back to the Bridge Yard.
All right.
Going back to the Bridge Yard. Excited about that. Gosh. Just look out for us in 2024. Okay. Follow us on Instagram, BlackVines_. Just become a part of our mailing list, because things come about, all the time. And so we're starting to expand to other cities.
Ooh, like what?
Well, we've done Portland. We'll be back in Portland next year.
Mm-hmm.
We've done some things in Atlanta. We've done some things in Texas. We've done some things in LA. We've done some things in Chicago. We're looking at New York. We have wonderful partners out there. So more to come. We're doing it all. And if you become a member, so we have a subscription model as well. Mm-hmm. So if you become a member, you get half off of all of our produced events. So like Black Vines and Black Wine Wednesdays. You also get access. You're the first to know about things that we have going on. Mm-hmm. You get discounts to other stuff that we do in partnership with folks. And then you get discounts to all of our Black wine partners. And right now we're at 46 Black-owned wineries. So you have access to 46 Black-owned wineries discounts to every single one.
So it's worth your while.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to give up the game, but it's totally worth it, especially if you want to woo your friends.
Yeah, that's what's up. Well, Fern, I'm so glad, number one, that you were able to come up here and help me close out season 4.
Yeah, give it up for Kahja.
The As Told by podcast. Give it up for Black Vines. And thank you so much for that. But bigger than just coming to the podcast, you have been such a supporter of the K and the Bay brand. I remember when I did the first launch dinner back at Black Girls Greenhouse, and you came and did the wine pairings for us. You were a sponsor for that evening. You did an educational component, which with each of the wines that was served with each course of the dinner there. And then just here recently, this past summer when I did the pop-up for Foods of the Black Diaspora, you came out again, you did the pourings, you gave the education to the group of people who came and attended. So appreciative of not only the way you support the community and the ecosystem of business in the Bay Area and beyond, but for me personally, I've experienced that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Keep doing the amazing. Keep it up, and we got your back.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Closing out season, shout out to Stay Dip for their support of the As Told by podcast. And we actually have a sponsor this season. So shout out to Two Chef Coupe of Harlem, New York for sponsoring this season. We are out here and available for sponsorships and ads for next season of the As Told by podcast, which will be launching sometime early spring 2024. So if you're interested in sponsoring either an episode, if you're interested in sponsoring the season, if you want to advertise with the As Told by podcast, we're trying that new. That's new for season 5. So we would love to have you partner with us here. If you are looking for me in the interim, you can find me at Hey K in the Bay on Instagram. And it's been amazing having this season. So glad to be able to close it out. And I'll see y'all on season 5.
Dope. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. Peace.